guys, to a special edition of the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Steven and Dan here.
Baseball is finally upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a fun-packed show. You just listened to With a Vengeance from Division 1.1. Me and Steve are both excited. We're both huge baseball fans.
Yes, this is our first ever special.
So
we will have a regular show later in the week. We're not going to get into that tonight. We'll talk to you guys later in the week with our regular local sports show.
But tonight we're solely on baseball. So baseball, we're recording on a Tuesday night.
Baseball starts
Sunday. Technically, it's the Houston Astros versus the Texas Rangers.
Battle of Dallas. Battle of Texas. Yeah.
We all know the Rangers are probably going to win, but you never know. But that's what opening day is for. Everybody is in first place. Then the first full action of games will be on the first Monday. So
Monday.
6 days away. We're recording on a Tuesday night.
We're recording on the 26th. 1 week, 6 days, like Dan said, away from.
We're both
April
amped
1st.
up, even though we're Met fans. Baseball's still baseball to us.
Still love around the league.
Yeah, the Mets are going to be playing the Padres, and the Yankees are playing the Red Sox. It's going to be a rare that both teams are having opening day at the same time at home.
Yes.
I can't remember the first time that happened.
So tonight we have a special show. We're going to do our baseball solely preview show. We have our good friend Mike who's going to join us.
Yeah, he's going to be the Yankee insider for this show.
And then later on we're going to have our buddy Tommy come on via Skype, and he's going to talk about Mets baseball with us. And then after that we're going to take a little break, and we're going to bring on Mike back and do an Around the League. We have a lot of predictions, all the awards, all the divisions.
Sleepers and busts, the usual good stuff that everybody wants to listen to.
So some couple questions for the experts, quote unquote, we'll talk about. That's basically why we're doing this, because we're not experts.
No, we're just doing it for shits and giggles.
And we're fans. You're getting a fan's point of view of what we think will happen this baseball season.
I am very excited for the baseball season and what this podcast has to offer. I eat, sleep, and breathe baseball just as much as how much I like football. But baseball is definitely my second passion, so I'm very excited.
And also, we can keep up with during the summer.
Yes,
with you guys as well. So let's bring on Mike.
Yes,
let's
do it.
Actually, first we're going to take a little break.
Take a break.
A little more Division 1.1.
Then we'll bring on Mike. Talk about the Yankees.
Talk about some Yankee baseball. And welcome back to the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Steven and Dan here. We're going to talk a little Yankee baseball.
Yankee baseball with our guest Mike.
Welcome, Mike.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, first things first. What do you think?
A lot of stuff has happened in Yankee land.
This is not the Yankees from 10 years ago, I'll tell you that much.
No. See, needless to say, it's not going to be the Yankees that the Yankee fans are used to, or that baseball fans are used to. I think that this year is definitely going to be a different year. Just due to injuries and all the players that we lost in the off season. But different necessarily isn't always bad. So we'll just have to take it game by game and see what happens.
Yankee fans in our generation are going to be in for a very rude awakening.
Absolutely,
this year.
I agree.
Very, very rude awakening.
I mean, I think last year was just
the tip of the iceberg
situation with Mariano Rivera. Like, me as a Yankee fan, it really made me realize how spoiled I am when it comes to closers.
That really was just the tip of the iceberg. And then what happened in the playoffs with Jeter? Oh. The minute Jeter went down, the Yankees' chances of even trying to make it a competitive series dwindled because their heart and soul. Well,
this is the 26th and the 25th was Passover. My aunt's boyfriend is a big Yankee fan. He said younger Yankee fans were in for a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he went through it in like the 70s, the early 70s. They weren't good. And
the 80s.
The young Yankee fans now are expecting them to win a World Series every year. And he's used to the ups and downs of being a Yankee fan.
Right. I try to be as optimistic as possible, but at the same time, I'm also a realist. And it's just like you said, Yankee fans, ever since '96, pretty much have been spoiled because we're just used to either being in the World Series or
Yeah,
winning the
well,
World Series.
you only
being
missed the playoffs one time in that span since '95.
Yep.
So that's 18 years. Anyway, let's be a little bit more optimistic because this is very rare that the Yankees. This is very depressing. Like you're used to this, like with Met talk. Now it's like the Yankees. All right.
We're gonna get to the pressing talk later when we bring Tommy on.
Yeah.
We'll talk some Met baseball.
Anyway,
Don't worry. Well, positivity around
with
here.
the Yankees, which it's going to be weird this year with their division. It's going to be so upside down, quote unquote, on paper, as 6 days away from the opening day, that the Yankees and Red Sox might be the 4th and 5th place ranked team going into the regular season, according to paper, and it's just weird to read.
Okay, speaking of that, Mike, as this point, 6 days before opening day, which team in the division scares you the most in the AL East?
Well, it's just, like Dan said, it's tough because, this year the AL East is, on paper is stacked. I mean, you got all these teams now who, have, been dormant for a long time, and now all of a sudden teams like, Baltimore are coming back, and, they're, I would say that, in my opinion, Baltimore is the biggest threat in the division. I mean, on paper, the Blue Jays made a lot of off-season pickups, with R.A. Dickey and Jose Reyes, and, got all these great players, who pretty much, went to Toronto overnight. But, I think that as, history has shown us, just because you have all these great players doesn't necessarily guarantee you a championship. It's all about how you mesh with your teammates and, meshing with your manager and all those different personalities. But, just, judging from last year, I definitely think that Baltimore is the biggest threat in the division.
I actually agree with them.
Yeah. They gelled together.
I don't have the stat on top of my head at the moment, but last year the Orioles played almost every single game, a one-run game every night, and they found ways to win it.
Absolutely.
And they brought the Yankees to a 5-game series in the playoffs. And if the Orioles were a little bit, I was actually at the game. If the Orioles were a little bit older and they didn't face a hot CC Sabathia, they could have easily found a way to win.
Yeah.
It was just the Yankee mystique in Game 5 that last year's NLDS. As for the Rays, I like the Rays, but it's all about Evan Longoria if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, the Rays are going to be a little tough, but they don't have much pitching other than David Price. They got rid of Shields and other things, but I still think it's going to be the Orioles this year.
We will talk more about the AL East later on in our full-out Major League Baseball preview. But back to the Yankees, what is your take on Phil Hughes for this year? He's been a very up-and-down guy. They always thought he'd be the ace of the team.
It's contract year, so...
And it's also contract year for him.
It's a contract year for Phil Hughes. I mean, it's... Phil Hughes has been... obviously he's been very inconsistent the past couple of years, and, I had so much high hopes from him, back in 2009 when he had a great year, and in 2010 he had a great year, and I had... I really thought that he was going to be... the future of this Yankees pitching rotation. And, just seeing his inconsistency and seeing some of his weaknesses. I mean, granted, he's still a very young player and, he still has a lot of developing to do. But, it's tough because, all the Yankee fans that I talk to are, they pretty much have had enough of Phil Hughes. But me personally, I think that, like I said, he's still young. He still has a lot of developing to do. And it's his contract year, so it's pretty much a put up or shut up year.
And you can say the same for Ivan Nova as well. With Ivan Nova, he's still young, very young, and he's still learning the ropes. The thing with these guys, they're getting last few years they were getting the wins,
right?
But the ERAs were skyrocketed way too high. They both have good stuff. I think as long as the Yankees pitching staff keeps it afloat, the Yankees will be able to survive until the arsenal comes back of Teixeira and Granderson and Jeter hopefully will be back in a few weeks. And who knows about A-Rod? What's your takes on A-Rod? Do you even think he's going to be coming back this year? Like
with Alex Rodriguez,
Or do you think his ship
all of his
sailed after
problems.
the postseason?
I don't think his ship has necessarily sailed.
With the Yankees?
Clearly that he has a lot of struggles in the postseason. With the exception of
course.
2009.
Yeah, because who was he dating that year?
Kate Hudson. I think he
Kate
was dating
Hudson.
that
The
year.
luck of
That's
Kate
right.
Hudson.
Remembers, he goes through them.
No, but the only year he did
Who
good.
can keep up? Who can even keep up with this guy?
Yeah, but
He's
the year,
allowed though. It's okay. Look at all his money.
but the Kate Hudson, he should go back with Kate Hudson because
That's right.
he's
that
one
was clearly his formula for success. was
That
dating
was
a
it.
good-looking celebrity. But with Alex Rodriguez, I have a tough time condemning him because really, without his performance in 2009, I think that there is no World Series title. With obviously there were a lot of other players that contributed. But Alex Rodriguez really, really helped us out in 2009. So
absolutely.
And clearly he's got his bat. He can still perform with his bat. He just he's not very durable anymore.
Yeah.
I think that he needs to start DHing a lot more, and he doesn't necessarily need to be out at third base every single day.
Which will happen because the Yankees do actually have Youkilis this year, which he is actually a better glove than A-Rod.
I agree. Yeah.
That's the difficult thing with the Yankees this year, with Teixeira being hurt, is that now they have to bring Youkilis to first and third now instead of just having Youkilis at third base.
Right.
It's just a cluster right now, and the Yankees are just picking up minor league contracts left and right the last few days. Lyle Overbay minor league contract today. I don't know. Maybe we might be seeing Lyle Overbay playing first base for the Yankees in a few weeks if Juan Rivera or who else is playing?
Lance Nix
and Travis Hafner's having an awful spring training as well. It's just
He must be so excited with those names.
Oh yeah.
No, if it was a couple of years ago, he would be in heaven. But unfortunately, the Yankees are not looking too hot. They actually hit the Mets injury bug. But let's talk to a little upbeat. Who do you think will surprise and be the best quote-unquote Yankee for 2013? The Yankees will succeed.
Besides the basic Cano and CC.
Cano. I think that I really have high hopes for Jason Nix. I think that he really, last year was obviously his first shot in the majors last year, and I think he really, really showed a lot of promise. And obviously his inexperience showed a lot, but I think he's definitely got the speed and just to work on his bat and work on his glove, but he's still, I think he's got a lot of potential, and I'm expecting big things from him this year.
Okay, I could see that as well.
What about Brett Gardner?
Brett Gardner, obviously, yeah. Last year it was just it was very unfortunate to have him hurt last year. Clearly we missed his speed a lot. And we missed his glove a lot, so I'm also expecting a big year out of Brett Gardner. Just just because our bats are suffering so much with our biggest players that are going to be injured for quite some time. I think that we have to rely less on the long ball, and we have to rely more on our base running abilities and more. Traditional baseball rather than just getting men on base and expecting to hit a home run.
That's where this year's Yankee team is going to be very, very stark because they're not going to be able to hit the 3-run, 5-run home runs every game. Like you said with Gardner, I actually agree 100% with you. The problem with Gardner is he can never stay healthy the last few years. He always finds a hamstring injury or some injury with his feet, and that's really troubling because he's their fastest player on the team.
Yep.
I think if Gardner stays healthy and Ichiro stays healthy, the Yankees are going to be able to get speed on base, and it's as long as the guys in the middle of the lineup can drive them in. It's all about the middle of the lineup this year of driving guys home.
One thing that's been doing well in the spring has been the 3 and 4, which has been Youkilis and Cano.
Right.
Because Youkilis actually has 5 home runs last time I checked this spring.
Really?
Yeah, because of the fact that Cano is right behind him in the lineup, so that's actually going to benefit him a lot.
Youkilis is going to be thriving like he did with Big Papi and Minnie.
Right. I think that this is going to be like I think it was '08 was the last Red Sox World Series, or '07 when he was.
Wait.
'07, I think.
Oh, was it '07?
Or was it? I think it was 07, 08 season, yeah.
When he was the big part of that World Series team because of the protection he had in the lineup.
Right.
And I think that's going to, Cano being behind them is going to be beneficial. And then they're even talking at Cano possibly being the 5-hitter.
Yeah.
When Teixeira comes back and having Teixeira, Youkilis, Cano.
It's going to be a weird thing to hear Yankee fans, but Yankee fans are going to absolutely like Youkilis.
I was always a big Youkilis supporter.
Well, obvious reasons. But he is a hard-nosed player. Yankee fans are going to give him, he was a Red Sox, but by the first week of the season.
Johnny Damon.
Yeah, by the first week after he makes the one game-winning play or something, game-saving play,
everybody will forget about it.
And he'll get his credit in Boston when he goes to Boston like Damon did. He'll tip his hat, and that'll be the end of it. Yeah. He'll start getting booed.
And the reason why...
it's the way it works.
But the thing with Youkilis, he did mention that he's still a Red Sox at heart, so that's really going to annoy some people, and the Red Sox fans are not going to really care about that, but... Whatever, he's a Yankee now. He's still a productive and serviceable third baseman. I would love to have him on the Mets or any other credible team.
Depends on where. Depends on what position.
With Kevin Youkilis, obviously, more of your general Yankee fans who aren't really are just kind of bandwagon Yankee fans, quote unquote, not really a fan of the sport. Obviously, they're going to hear, Kevin Youkilis was a Red Sox. Why do we want him? But, I really think the guy is pretty classy and he can still play. He can absolutely still play, and clearly we need players.
And another thing with Youkilis, which I'm liking, the Yankees are starting to, stay away from the 3-run home run.
Yeah.
Youkilis gets on base all the time, and he will hit home runs, but he's more of an on-base guy, so that's actually going to help out.
Yeah.
Potentially the top of the lineup, with or without Jeter, it could be Gardner or Granderson with Ichiro. Those three guys are going to be interchangeable on the top of the lineup.
One thing in the American League, though, you could put one of them at the 9.
That's what I'm saying. They're
Gardner
interchangeable. That's what I mean. They're interchangeable.
Would really be beneficial.
But right now, Gardner's going to be on the top of the lineup because Granderson's is going to be on the injured list.
You got to think it's going to be Gardner, Ichiro.
The one thing I'm worried about Gardner is he's turned into a home run hitter, and that's really scary because he used to be a slap hitter with some pop like he was, but now he's turning into a power hitter with strikeout capabilities. If he cuts down his strikeouts, it's going to be the Granderson of old that people are going to enjoy.
Granderson or Gardner?
Granderson.
Okay.
I think the big thing with the Yankees this year is, clearly, like Dan said before, it's gonna fall on our pitching ultimately, because until these big bats get back and we're able to, keep scoring the runs that are going to help us, win games when we come up against, other teams with big bats. I think our pitching rotation really, really has to step up, and it's got to be our saving grace this year, just because we're lacking so much power.
Especially in those series, you won't have CC pitching.
It actually can be. I'm being optimistic, because right now with the Yankees rotation, as today on the 26th, in my rotation in my head, it's Sabathia, who you're gonna get. You're gonna get his games. Hopefully,
you're gonna get 15 to 19 wins a year.
Yeah, he's gonna be the workhorse everybody knows he is.
Hopefully, his injury bug from last year ends a little bit, because he was hurt a few times last year, which wasn't good. Then you're gonna get Kuroda. Kuroda deserves to be the number 2, just for the pure fact of what he did last year for the Yankees.
Definitely.
Then now here comes the madness. Do you put Hughes, and now it's Hughes, Pettit, and Nova? Where do those 3 guys land? Obviously, you're probably gonna say Pettit just because he's Andy Pettit at 3 maybe, or you mix and match with lefty righty.
Well, I would definitely like to see Pettit maybe a little later in the rotation.
Yeah, I could see him more of a 5. He'd be the perfect 5.
You want him pitching a little less earlier, and the 5 is usually a spot that you skip over the first or 2 times in the rotation.
The wild cards of this team who have great records because of the Yankees being able to beat teams 10-1. It really is up to Ivan Nova and Phil Hughes, like we mentioned.
I agree. I think that Ivan Nova would be a great number 3. Obviously, he had a little bit of struggling,
but
times last year. But
he last year was his first full season.
Right,
as
exactly.
Yankee, so.
Yeah. So I'd like to see him in a 3 or 4 slot.
I was actually in one of the first games that Nova actually struggled with against the Angels in the middle of the year. And I remember all the Yankee fans booing him because he was getting taken out of the game for giving up so many runs, and I was like, he's probably been your best pitcher all season,
easily,
other than CC.
Easily.
What are you complaining about?
Yeah, and listen, and not everybody's going to be a CC Sabathia where you have so much success,
9 innings every game.
9 innings every game. You get up to 100 and 105 pitches. Obviously not everybody's going to be like that. So you got to cut the guy some slack. He's also very young. Also, you got to let him, give some time to develop and really get a lot of command over his pitches.
All right, this is where I think the Yankees are going to be their best unit this year. Tell me what you think the bullpen for this year's Yankee team. Right now, with Mariano coming back from injury, I expect him being in his final year, Mo of old. But it might take a little while for him to get his groove back, which it's just weird to hear saying that. Then you're gonna have then you're gonna have Robertson. Then you're gonna have Phelps. Who hopefully Jabba finally comes back from injury.
Yeah, I'd like to see Jabba get back.
The Yankees do have a solid bullpen. It's hopefully the starters get to the bullpen and the Yankees find ways to score runs.
Right.
For them to get those wins, because I do think the Yankees bullpen is solid.
Yeah, when it comes to that 1-2 slot in the pitching rotation, I think that we have the potential to get to the 7th inning or maybe even the 8th inning. But as you get later into that pitching rotation, even with Pettit, Pettit is obviously he's a proven pitcher and we know he can play. But, obviously because of his old age, he's lost a little zip on his fastball and he's become more of a finesse pitcher than, that power, 8-9 inning pitcher that we're used to seeing from back in the day. So, I think ideally, you want to see, Phelps, get mixed in there, along with Jabba, hopefully Jabba, can come back and stay healthy. Hopefully there's no, residual effects from any of his injuries last year. And I think that with Robertson, I think he's the setup man. I think he's the 8th inning guy. I think that inning belongs to him because he really thrived off that.
Okay, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. My final question, I don't know if Steve could add on this. What's your overall prediction on this year's Yankee team?
Basically, over/under on wins.
Over/under on wins. We're definitely not going to be a 90-win team this year. I think that I'm just being realistic. I'd like to be optimistic, but I don't want to be overly optimistic and be too unrealistic. I can see us really being 85 win team. And maybe honestly, just being realistic, I really don't know if we're even going to take the division. I can there's just so many other good teams in the AL East. I really don't see us winning enough games to win the division. I can see us getting into a wild card
I could
slot.
see the Yankees getting mid-80s.
Yeah,
mid to late 80s.
Okay, now one thing, bold prediction. New York Yankee bold prediction for the 2013 season.
What needs to go right for them to contend for that division?
Your bold prediction for the summer.
All right, my bold prediction is basically that we get to the league championship series. I think that if our pitching stays healthy and our pitching, all of our stuff, stays on and everybody, stays healthy, I think our pitching can really, really make us one of the toughest teams to hit off of and score runs on in the major leagues. When it comes to hitting, like I said earlier, I think we need to rely less on the long ball this year and rely more on, just cycling the bases, getting men on, stealing bases, bringing men home. And
it's going to be interesting to see because the Yankees have been the high-powered Yankees as long as we could remember since the last real dynasty of the Yankees.
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to see the Yankees actually play baseball and contribute to the little things. It's really going to be interesting to see how this form of Yankee brand carries it to the next generation.
And, I think that's important, just to advance as baseball players and as a team, because you're not going to have all these big players around forever. Jeter's getting up there, A-Rod's getting up there, so you're not going to have all of these, all of these core players that we're so used to seeing over the past few years around forever. So you really want to develop the young talent. You really want to start looking into the farm system, for some new guys that can come up and step up.
Oh, okay. Before I forget, this name just popped out in my head. Michael Pineda. When he comes back, hopefully he comes back sometime June, July. I honestly, for what they gave up from, I hope he's able to come back and produce like he did his first year with the Mariners, because that's the sole reason why they gave up Jesus Montero.
Yeah.
Which now they direly need, because they don't have Russell Martin, and they're going to have Cervelli and Chris Stewart as their opening day catchers, and that's really scary to see.
That makes me shake.
I personally think
it really
that
makes me shake.
personally think that this year will be the first year that Yankee fans are going to say...
Of our generation, let's clarify
our
that.
generation, that Yankee fans are going to say, George Steinbrenner's not the owner. Because a team like this, George Steinbrenner would never put on the field.
No.
There's
Absolutely
no
not.
way.
I was, I was just... One of the biggest off-season mistakes, I think, was getting rid of Russell Martin.
Yeah.
I really think, obviously, he had a lot of struggles with his bat last year. He was below 200 most of the year.
Brutal.
But you can't argue he's one of, if not the best defensive catcher in the game.
Yeah,
and me personally, I would rather have a great defensive catcher and a not so great bat than the other way around.
Absolutely.
Well, we would like to thank Mike for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
We're gonna have him stick around. We're gonna bring in Tommy now via Skype. After a little short break, we'll bring in Tommy. We're going to talk some Mets baseball. I'm sure Mike would love to stick around and listen to that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, thank God I'm not a Mets fan after this. I'll gladly take 85 wins as opposed to
I'll take 85 wins.
We'll be lucky to get 70.
No, hopefully 80.
We'll discuss it with Tommy in a little bit. And welcome back to the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, that was Division 1.1 with a Vengeance, the self-titled song off the album. We would like to switch a little gears now, and we're going to talk some Mets. And to join us, Dan and I, as you guys know, are two big Met fans, our good friend Tommy via Skype. So keep that in mind. Welcome, Tommy.
Welcome,
What's up, guys?
How's it going?
How's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem.
No problem, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
so, first things first, what do you think the Mets... it's going to be a long year, so keep that in mind. What do you think is going to be one of the few bright spots coming into this season?
I'll probably shock a few people out there. I'm going to go with the bullpen.
Oh, shocked myself.
Yeah, I shocked myself when I actually started to think about it, and because at first your gut reaction is, oh, last year was a disaster. It's going to be the same thing. But if you look at what Alderson's done, there was a plan behind it. Last year he made 2 signings, Roush and Frank Francisco. And Roush was a 1-year deal. It worked out pretty well. And if you look at what he's done this year, he's brought in 5, 6, 7 guys all on 1-year contracts. And these guys are pitching for their livelihoods. They're pitching for that next job. They want to stay in the league. So you got to figure he went with quantity. If you can get good years out of 3 or 4 of those guys, it's a vast improvement from what we had last year.
Absolutely.
So I like the method he went with. I'll throw a little factoid out there for you guys. I did a little research last night. From 2011 to 2012, that's the last 2 baseball seasons previous to this one, 2012, 7 of the top 10 bullpen teams were not in the top 10 the year before.
Oh,
So bullpen transformations happen year by year. There's no real rhyme or reason for it. So before everybody starts panicking about the bullpen, I think we're in better shape than people give it credit for.
Okay, so here's the next question about the bullpen. And me and Tommy talk pretty much frequently about the Mets. And Tommy is a pretty big Bobby Parnell fan. With that being said, do you think this year, since he's starting the season with the closer role, do you think he'll finally thrive with the pressure of being the Mets closer for once?
I struggle with this one just because you look at his numbers as a closer throughout his career, and they're pretty bad. I mean, there's no way around it. It's not the biggest sample size, but when you look at his numbers as a setup man and his ERAs in the mid-twos, and you look at his closer ERA, which is almost double of what he is as a setup man, that kind of shows something about the mindset, about the situation. Maybe he just can't handle it. But like you mentioned, starting off the year, clean slate, knowing he's got the job, he gets off to a good start. He could snowball that into a pretty good season and maybe a successful career as a closer.
Speaking of the closer role, last year's closer, Frank Francisco, I know he doesn't have the job to start, but you were talking...
He might start sorry to interrupt. He's also most likely going to start on the DL with his elbow problem.
But, like you said before, a lot of one-year deals, and a couple of years ago, he did have a pretty solid season in Toronto on his final year of his contract. Do you think that if Parnell struggles and they do offer the role to Francisco, he can take it and run with it, considering it is a contract year?
Again, you have no idea. I mean, I use, for example, Darren Oliver, the year that he pitched with the Mets. He was intending to retire if he didn't make the team that year. And you look, it's 6-7 years later now, he's still pitching. So you take guys and you just don't, especially with relievers, you have no idea what you're getting. Frank Francisco very well could have a good year, especially that it is a contract year. I just don't know if he gets the job as closer if Parnell fails, because you read between the lines of Terry Collins and Sandy Alderson. They are not fans of Frank Francisco. I think they both understand that was a bad signing. It didn't work out, and they understand the frustration of Met fans as well. So bringing in Brandon Lyon, I think, was another option at closer, because if they were that confident in Frank Francisco, that deal probably doesn't get made. So I think it's Bobby Parnell's job to keep. If he loses it, I think we might see Brandon Lyon instead of Frank Francisco in there. So he very well could have a good year, but it might not be as the closer of this team.
One thing, a lot of if you notice, a lot of the pictures from a lot of the players were posting, a lot of them involved John Roush last year. Do you think the loss of him will affect the clubhouse in any way? Because he seemed like a very good clubhouse guy, and a lot of people wanted him back. I know a couple of fans wanted him back as well. He was very fan-friendly. So do you think the loss of him in the clubhouse will affect this team?
You had him on the team last year, and you only won 73 games. So the clubhouse presence only does so much. You still got to go out there and win the games. That being said, he had a great year. He ended up, from where he came, the second half, his ERA was under a 2. He stayed relatively healthy. He had a minor problem somewhere during the year, but he threw some quality innings down the stretch, and you do miss that in the bullpen, especially an experienced guy like him, but I think they replaced him and then some by all the signings they made this offseason. So I don't think we missed John Roush that much. A guy who's 6'11", throwing an 87-mile-per-hour fastball is kind of an anomaly, and it makes you scratch your head a little bit. So I'm not too upset. I wouldn't be too worried.
All right. So that's pretty much it. Let's change gears a little bit. What do you think the starting rotation is for the Mets coming into breaking camp this year? With Johan being on the DL and Sean Markham might be having elbow injury issues that they're trying to sweep under the rug, what do you think the projected starting rotation will be? And what do you expect from each starter?
I think the Mets rotation this year solid.
We're talking opening day rotation, not later in the year. I know you're high on the prospects. We'll get to them a little later.
Yep.
But we're talking opening day rotation.
Opening day rotation, you assume Santana might not even be on the DL, but he's not going to be in the rotation, at least for the first couple of weeks. You got Harvey, you got Neese.
By the way, Neese was announced that he is starting opening day.
I heard that. I like that move, too.
He's definitely the most deserving of it.
Yeah, he's developing into one of the better left-handed starters in the game. So he's He's gotten better every year. Last year he showed he could hold up toward the end, so he's earned that.
Well, the advantage
I
with
like
last year was the nose job that Carlos Beltran bought him.
That was it. He's more aerodynamic throwing the ball now, you know? So, did Beltran pay for that? He did, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did. He made good on his word. But I like the rotation, and this is without, Zach Wheeler and that whole thought. This is assuming Markham is going to be healthy. I like Dylan G. So I think without Santana, you have Hefner, you got Mejia, you got guys that you could plug in for a few starts if need be. So I think the rotation is going to hold up just fine. You got a lot of young talent, which gets me excited as a Met fan.
You mentioned Mejia, and I know he's been the quote-unquote ace of the prospects the past couple seasons. I know he's no longer that. I know he had some visa problems getting to the States early in spring training. He's actually been struggling a little bit. What are your real thoughts on him? Do you think it's time that if you don't make it in the pros this year to just cut the leash, or what do you think about that?
He makes you pull your hair out because you watch him pitch and his stuff is so good and it's so electric. And then it's flat though. The fastball's not moving too. He throws it hard.
I think with Henry Mejia, you can't cut the cord. He had 2 elbow surgeries, and he have to get back from that. He finally fought back from last year in AA and AAA. So I think one more half a season to a year, him fight it out. I think he'll help the Mets sooner rather than later when it comes all down with it.
Can't forget he's also 23 years old. Yeah, exactly. He's coming off an injury. So a lot of these pitchers don't develop till 26, 27. And we've just heard about Henry Mejia because we signed him when he was 15 years old. So we think of him as this veteran who's been toiling through the minor leagues. He's still learning as a pitcher. He's still growing, and he's still refining his mechanics. So I agree with Dan. Don't cut the cord just yet. Don't give up on it because his stuff is that good. But it's got to get to a point where he's got to show some consistency. And I think that's what Met fans, I think that's what the Mets organization wants to see. Just some kind of consistency. Because he'll put together a great year in the minors and follow it up with a stinker. So I think they're waiting for that foundation to really be in place, and then hopefully give him his shot, maybe in the bullpen, could be in the rotation. I see him more as a reliever, especially a guy coming off arm problems. Maybe try to limit his innings.
I absolutely agree. I could see him becoming a closer. Maybe he could be our closer in the future. I could see he has the stuff for it. But we see.
You've been hearing that for a while. You've been hearing Mejia could be the future closer, but he's got to show that he's got the
consistency.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's it. That's the big one.
This is the SND Podcast show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Dan and Steve here, and we are talking to our friend Tom via Skype. So as you can hear, there are a little bit of a glitching situation. That is the internet connections on both ends. That is what it is. This is our baseball preview. We are talking Mets baseball. I know how excited all of you are listening to it for this year's Mets baseball season. I know I'm going to be at a bunch of games. I'm sure Dan's going to be. I'm sure Tom will be. We love talking Mets, so you can always, if you see us at a game, just want to talk a little Mets, be our guest. We're always there to talk. Let's get away from the pitching for a little bit, Tommy. Let's talk this wonderful outfield.
Which Gratland said might be the worst outfield of all time.
Yes. What I think the 4 are going to be is going to be Bird, Cowgill, Neuenhuis, and Duda. What do you think of this wonderful outfield that we have coming up this season?
I think you have the 4 right, but before we get into whether it's going to be good or bad, look at it this way. What was our opening day outfield last year? Do you remember?
Jason Bay
in left.
Duda
in right.
And Andres Torres.
And Andres Torres in center field. Now, take this year's starting outfield that we're starting the year with. What is an upgrade? Who's better?
Marlon Bird.
Jason Bay.
Marlon Byrd, but
Marlon Byrd. We upgraded at one of the positions.
Marlon Bird's
We upgraded over Jason Bay. We've got Duda still out in the outfield, so that stays the same. And then Andres Torres. Who would you rather have, Torres or Kirk Neuenhuis?
Angel Pagan.
Angel Pagan, that's a good answer. But what I'm trying to get to there is our outfield last year it's arguably worse than it is this year. And last year, nobody really made a big deal out of it. I think Cal Gill's shown he's got some spark. The big loss is Hairston. That's going to be the one that hurts, is that bench depth, that guy that can come off and do some damage against lefties late in the game. But in terms of what we're starting off the year with, I think we're upgraded, which is not saying much, but we were able to have a great first half last year with a pretty weak outfield, so there's no reason we can't do that again as long as the pitching holds up.
Okay, well, since we're talking outfield and you are big on the prospects, another guy who's been having a good defensive spring training is Matt Dendecker. I know you've been bringing him up to me a couple times. Dan's been talking about him.
I've loved Matt Dendecker for the last couple of spring trainings.
What's the over-under, Tom, for you, of how long until he is MLB ready?
Knowing the Mets, someone's going to pull a hammy first week, so I'd say a week. 7 games.
The problem with Dendecker and guys like Kurt Neuenhuis is that they need to get professional at bats and not swing at crazy wild pitches, but that comes with the amount of ABs. So I expect having Neuenhuis coming back for the second year. I think he's going to be a little bit better than what people expect. I do like his glove. He's not the most flashy outfielder, but he does get the job done 9 out of 10 times. Very rarely he had a mistake in the outfield last year. So I do like Kirk, and I just like Dendecker. He has that energy, and he's a vacuum in the outfield.
See, my problem with Dendecker is that he's lefty. So how often can you go with the left-handed full outfield in your lineup? Our lineup is pretty much lefty happy right now.
Yes.
That's why I think the Michael Bourne signing, if that was able to take place, that would have been not just because Michael Bourne is a typical outfielder, but he's a right-handed bat. We need right-handed.
He's a left-handed bat.
Michael Bourne, is he a switch hitter?
No, he's a left-hander.
Sure? Michael Bourne is not a switch hitter?
Michael Bourne's left-handed.
Oh, well.
He still would have been great to have.
He still would have been nice to have, but you take the outfield as it is right now, and defensively, I think they'll be okay. Duda's kind of a mess out there, but center field is where you really want your defense, and we've got that. We got 2 options in Neuenhuis and Dendecker.
And Cal Gill for now.
And Neuenhuis showed when he puts the bat on the ball, he makes things happen. He's got some wheels. He's got some pop. He's just got to cut down on the strikeouts, and those are things that you can work on. And those are things that can be tweaked with mechanics.
Well, that's the thing with Duda. Like you said, he's not that great in the field, but he's the type of bat that can hit in the high 2s and give you a nice power numbers, pretty decent power numbers.
Lucas Duda is one of the best BP batters I've ever seen. Just rocking. He hits bombs in BP.
He hits moonshots.
But unfortunately, they don't throw BP during the games.
That's the problem.
It's either him or Ike Davis for the home run derby this year if they're going to do a hometown guy. So,
sweet.
They can put on a show.
Power of the Jews, calling it.
There you go. The Hebrew Hammer.
All right. Here's the next topic. Ike. Last year, Ike had a very mixed season. His first half of the season after he hurt his ankle 2 seasons ago.
Bumping into David Wright.
He
didn't even bump into him. He walked into him.
Which was a day-to-day injury for the last, for 3 months until they finally put him on the shelf. And then during the
wonderful Met training staff.
Then going into spring training, since Ike lives in Arizona, he got a bad case of what we call valley fever,
The Valley Fever.
and you can tell
the dreaded Valley Fever.
You can tell that took a toll on him. And the first half, he batted barely over 200. And then the second half came along. He was arguably the best Met going into the second half, with the stats-wise, with home runs and batting average and RBIs. Which Ike Davis will show up? Who do you think will show up, Tommy?
I think we're going to get the Valley Feverless second half Ike Davis. You could see the struggles. You could see that there was the inconsistency in his timing, in his leg kick. There was so much going on, and there was so much tweaking taking place early on in the season. And I think he finally figured out what was going on wrong, and he put together a second half. I mean, the guy hit 30 home runs, 32 home runs.
That came out of nowhere.
32 home runs, and he was non-existent for 2 of those months. So you take his batting average through until, into the beginning of June, he was hitting 170.
Yeah.
So him to finish at essentially 230 and 32 home runs, he had a hell of a second half. So I think he's going to be able to build on that even more. And what does concern me is his numbers are awful at Citi Field, and that could be a mental thing going on there, and the mental things are the hard ones to fix.
Well, that's also very interesting because 2 years ago he was very good at Citi Field. He actually had better numbers at Citi Field.
To be honest with you, I think Ike's going to have a better year at Citi Field statistically because of the fence moving in, and I think it hit him. I think it got to him early in the season, and as the season went on, he hit well at Citi Field.
Remember when the fence was back, he actually hit better at Citi Field.
So I think Ike's gonna hit. He's gonna lead the league, lead the team in home runs. Well, that was quite a close one. He's gonna lead the team.
Let's not go there.
No, he's gonna definitely lead the team in homers this year.
It's not a far off thought to think he could lead the league in home runs, though. Other than Stanton, who's really pumping out? Other than Stanton and Braun,
especially with Pujols in the American League now.
It's not unrealistic to think Ike Davis could lead the league in home runs. Especially if he keeps up that second half pace that he was on last year. Like he could end up with 40 home runs this year.
That would be very nice to see.
Very nice to see.
All right, with the protection of the lineup, with all things considered healthy, hopefully. Who would you have leading off for this year's team? I think I would go with Ruben Tejada leading off because he was pretty decent for us last year. With Daniel Murphy, then Wright, Davis, then unfortunately it's going to be Duda, then Neuenhuis, and then where do you put Marlon Byrd actually?
That's the tough question because I've heard a lot of things. I think Terry Collins has mentioned Bird maybe hitting leadoff, and there is no prototypical leadoff hitter on this team. Neuenhuis, I guess, would be the guy just in terms of speed.
Yeah.
But you want a leadoff guy putting the bat on the ball a little bit more frequently than that. So Tejada could be the choice. He showed that he could handle it last year. So I think Tejada gets the first crack at it, but you need a little bit more speed at the top of the order, in my opinion. So I wouldn't mind seeing Neuenhuis stealing some bases, setting up some things early on in the game.
I'm with you for that. All right, here's the biggest question since we know you love prospects.
Love prospects.
Before we move on to prospects, you mentioned Ruben Tejada.
Okay.
Who had probably one of the most underrated seasons last year.
Yes.
He was incredible. Pitchers are going to adjust to him. Can he adjust to the pitchers?
I think he can. The only knock you could have on Ruben Tejada that he has zero pop, but that's livable.
You're okay with the zero pop.
Yeah, you're okay with that. But the problem is with him and Murphy, they're both high average guys, but they do not score any runs or RBIs.
Well, the idea on the scoring runs is the guys behind them have to drive them in.
Well, David can't do it all by himself. That's the problem.
Right.
So Ike and Duda have to carry the load as well. But I think Tejada's all right. Let's change back to, since Tom is a big prospect guy. When do you think Zach Wheeler and Travis Deneau is going to be called up to infuse the high energy of the prospects that Sandy Alderson has brought into the Mets organization after a very bleak farm system for X amount of years?
Well, I think we all know that it comes down to the financial issue. You delay their arbitration by calling them up later in the year. I mean, they won't go out and say it, but that's what it comes down to. And you can't blame them. You're saving millions of dollars in the long run. You're getting more years out of them on your team by doing that. So in a season that looks like it might be a lost one, you can't really hate on them for doing that. With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised to see d'Arnaud especially come up once that arbitration is not an issue anymore. So it legitimately could be May or June 1st. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I think with Darnell he's going to be able the minute that the arbitrations I think he'll be up around Mayish.
I do too.
I think because Buck is a serviceable catcher defensively, but he's atrocious at the dish. So I think we're gonna survive with him for 1 month, and then have Darnell come in and try to take over the load. The problem with Darnell is he's coming off of knee surgery, so the Mets are gonna want to baby him and make sure he's okay for the first month and make sure he's ready to come up.
From everything you hear, though, the knee injury happened in the back of the knee, which is it's pretty easy to come back from. Doesn't require surgery. It heals very clean. So they're not that concerned about that.
It is a concern,
especially a catcher, and that has to be a concern. There's two injuries that really, it's an arm injury for a pitcher, and it's a knee and a lower body injury for a catcher that gets you concerned. So there should be a moderate amount of concern there, but he's shown no ill effect from it. He's had a good spring, and apparently his strength is right where it was before the injury. So it looks like he's come back from it, and hopefully he can put that behind him and not make it a consistent thing.
That's going to be very clutch for the Mets. And with Wheeler, I think they're going to do exactly what they did with Harvey last year. They're going to have him have more time cook in AAA, and just eat up innings in AAA.
Let him dominate.
Yeah, let him dominate in AAA, and have him come up in July and pretty much take the Mets by storm, pretty much what Wheeler did last year. When Harvey was on his A game, it was very enjoyable, and one of the few games us Mets fans were able to really enjoy. So I think they're going to do the same method with Wheeler.
I could see Wheeler coming up a little sooner than Harvey did. Wheeler is the more polished of the prospects. He's the more highly thought of. There were questions about Matt Harvey at this point last year, if he could handle big league hitters, if he could get out big league hitters consistently. That's not even a question of Zach Wheeler right now. He is ready to go. If he needed to step in this rotation tomorrow, he would fit right in, and he would probably put up good numbers. So I think he's more a victim of his circumstances. Does somebody get hurt early on in the year? Does Santana get traded at some point? I mean, those are the things that are going to dictate how quick we see a Zach Wheeler in the Mets rotation. And so I think best case scenario, we could see him at some point mid-May, early June. And worst case scenario, we're going to see him as a late season call-up, get a few starts under his belt, just like we saw Harvey do last year.
All right. Also, since you're a big prospect guy, I'll throw some out there because I'm sure some of the Met fans are going to be interested.
How about this? Before we throw other names at him, give us the one prospect nobody talks about, Tommy, that you're looking forward to.
Nobody talks about.
That you would say, if a Met fan came up to you on the street and said, "Hey, who's the best prospect nobody knows about?"
I'm going Michael Fulmer. Michael Fulmer is a right-handed pitcher. He was the Mets' first draft pick from 2011 in the first round. He was a first-round draft pick out of Oklahoma high school. He's 20 years old. He absolutely dominated Single A last year. as a 19-year-old kid. So you look at that was his first full season at Single A. He kept his ERA around a 2.7, and he struck out over 100 batters. So you look at a guy like that, he's a first-round pick. He's got a lot of upside. He's throwing a hard fastball with movement, and he's already shown he can get out minor league hitters before he turned 20 years old. That's the kind of guy that gets me excited. You look for the swing and miss factor from these prospects. That's probably one of the biggest things. Because if guys are putting the bat on the ball in the minor leagues, they're putting the bat on the ball hard in the major leagues. So the fact that he was able to consistently miss bats and throw the ball in the strike zone, that's the kind of guy you keep your eye out for.
Okay. Awesome. We're gonna give you some names that are prospects that Mets fans should know if they've been following the team for the last few years.
Hit me with.
The first one that comes to my mind, obviously other than Dorno and Noah and Wheeler, is Wilmer Flores. When is he ever gonna be called up to the big leagues?
This is another guy similar to Henry Mejia. We signed this kid when he was 14 or 15 years old. So we've heard this name for so long, and at this point, as we sit here and talk tonight, the kid is 21 years old. Darno, just to put it into perspective, I think is 24.
Yeah.
So you look at what Wilmer Flores has done in the minor leagues. He's, especially last year with his big breakout year, I think he hit 300, hit 18 home runs. He developed the power that they thought he could have. He developed the average and consistency of contact that they thought he could have. At 21 years old, he's still growing. He's still developing into a full-rounded baseball player. And from everything that we've seen, he's the real deal. He's a prospect that you don't really hear about because there's not much hype with it. But when he gets up here, it's going to be when he's ready, and he's gonna be a fixture in this lineup.
When do you see him coming up? Do you see him coming up halfway through the season, or do you think of a more of a September call-up kind of thing?
I could see him coming up. Depends how he's doing at AAA or AA, wherever they start him. He dominated AA last year, so I would think
he's going to be moved up to Triple.
At some point this year, he will.
Didn't he struggle in AAA last year for a little bit?
I don't think he got to AAA last year. I think AA. He played the bulk of the. I think he played half the season at high A ball, and he spent half the season at AA ball. But he killed it in AA. So they might start him there, but we'll probably see him at AAA at some point. And assuming he's playing well, again, once there's an opportunity for him to slide right in, I think he could be up. Assuming if somebody gets hurt. Yeah, a trade. Who knows? Murphy's been on the trading block for,
pretty much.
Yeah, years. So if something manifests like that, I think we see him sooner than later. But I would think a September call up more than anything, just because he's 21 years old and the Mets are known to baby prospects. So I think September we could expect to see him get some major league at bats under his belt.
All right.
Okay. So, Mets. We're still talking Mets.
By the way, you're listening to the S&D podcast on Schmuck Sports Radio. It's Dan here with Steve. Before we let Tommy go with the Mets discussion, what do you think the projected Mets record is going to be and where they're going to finish in this season?
I would think you could take a look at last year, and it's going to be pretty similar to that. Don't forget, last year the Mets got off to an extremely hot start, too, and they only ended up with 73 wins. So, best case scenario, 75 wins. Worst case scenario, somewhere in the 60s. I've got it at 73, 74.
That sounds about right. That's where I see them. Hopefully we reach the 80s this year, but that's going to be asking for a lot.
You basically got to get Minnesota twin Johan Santana.
You do.
If you're going to get 80 wins
you
this
do.
year.
I honestly hope that Johan gets healthy so he's able to pitch and we could sell him off to someone and get some chips that we've been doing the last few years, which has been working.
with
might
that,
not-
he's actually been saying apparently that he wants an extension. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to go anyplace.
Well, sock me sideways.
So
There is I wouldn't mortgage my house on that happening.
Yeah, I could see him. I could see him getting traded, knowing Sandy Alderson.
okay, Tommy, you're one of the bigger Met fans that we know.
Sam.
Bold prediction. Nobody else is talking about. Tommy Heeman's bold Met prediction.
The bold Met prediction.
It could be like somebody's RBI total.
I'm going bullpen. Like I said earlier, I think this is going to be a top 10 bullpen in the league. In all of baseball.
Okay.
Top 10. Top 10 from 29th out of 30 to top 10. That's my bold prediction.
Okay, wow. I will buy you 30-pack of beer if that's the case.
I am going to be rooting for that bullpen every night.
And don't drink it if you're under 21. But
not only that, don't count on him doing that because he still owes me booze from a different bet that we've had.
No, you'll get that booze.
So, anywho,
we haven't needed to boot.
Don't cheat me out of my beer. Okay? That's one thing I will say.
He's saving it for football season.
Yeah, pretty much.
For those crazy tailgates.
Well, Dan,
Anyway.
since we are on the Mets, Dan, what's your bold prediction for the year?
My bold prediction. Let's see. My bold prediction is that the Mets starting. Let's see. My bold prediction. I will have to. I'm gonna have to go with the outfield's gonna be a lot more better than what people expect.
The outfield will be better.
I think they're gonna have Neuenhuis gonna show up and play well. Marlon Byrd is either now or never with Marlon Byrd, so I think he's gonna step up a little bit. I do like Lucas Duda. I will be the first to admit it, but he just has to put it together. He's a very quiet, calm guy. I think he's not so used to the New York flashing lights and the whoa, you got to do it now kind of mentality. I think Lucas Duda is finally going to burst out and finally put on the power that you see when you see him doing BP. So I see Lucas Duda hopefully hitting 25 homers. That's going to be my bold prediction.
I can see that.
I'm going to go. I got to go with my favorite Jew on the team.
Ike Davis hitting 40 home runs?
Ike Davis, 35 and 100.
Okay, that would be very good.
35 and 100 out of Ike Davis this year.
That I would take that in a heartbeat.
He had 32 last year. I think a couple guys above him are going to be getting on base a little bit more. He's going to get more opportunities with guys on. Because especially when Murphy comes back, you have Tata who can get on base a lot. Murph gets on base a lot, like you said earlier. And also Wright's going to get on base. So I think he's going to have guys on to get the multiple RBIs. It's not just going to be 35 solo home runs.
And you gotta think at some point Darno is going to make his presence in that lineup as well. So
the one problem I have with the Mets that we all failed to mention, which I'm shocked, is the health. As long as
that's because we could do a better training job than the doctors on that team.
As long as they stay healthy, the sky's the limit per se. So as long as these guys are healthy for once, it's been at least 3 or 4, 5, 6 years that everybody's been healthy. So I'm banking on the health. I think this year they're gonna finally be healthy for once, and that's really sad for me to be that to be a bold prediction, even though there's been a lot of injuries so far. Because Wright might miss opening day, Johan's not even start making the roster opening day, and who else? Oh, Markham might be hurt, and Murphy is hurt.
Yeah, but you rather have your luck. You got to think of it this way: it's injuries now.
Yep, that's true.
With hopes that later on, when all these guys start coming back, the team is holding their own to a point where you're okay with that.
It's not even the injuries with the Mets, because every team has injuries. It's the type of injuries the Mets get. It seems to be these absolutely ridiculous injuries. Lucas Duda breaks his wrist moving furniture. Jason Bay is running through walls, concussing himself. And Ike Davis
Castillo.
And that that bluegrass on the infield in Colorado really tore up, Ike Davis's ankle, when he tried to catch that pop-up.
The Louis Castillo having his best year ever as a Met out of the 4 years we had him, falling over a glove when he was going down the stairs.
That's the Mets right there, and that's kind of like the circus that envelops them. Is the same things are happening to other teams in terms of players getting hurt. It's just how we're getting hurt, and it's the misdiagnoses, and it's the recovery time, and there doesn't seem to be that communication between the health and the management, and it seems to get messed up. So, like Dan said, if that's taken care of, which hopefully it is, who knows? That's why they play the games. This team could surprise everybody and win 80 games, and it might not even be an issue to talk about.
Hey, look at the San Francisco Giants. Their 2 World Series victories. How many superstars were actually on those teams?
That's a good point, and
other than the pitching, obviously.
Well, other than, of course, Tom Knott's pitching and Posey, behind that, in Sandoval, you really had just a group of guys they put together.
And that's what GMs, I think, fail to realize. They're so quick to sign the offensive guys to the big contracts. But when you break down the history and who's won the World Series and who's gotten to the playoffs the last 10, 15 years, it's always the teams that are in the top of the league in pitching. And it's always the teams that play good defense. The offense is kind of a secondary factor. You look at the USA team during the World Baseball Classic, all-stars at every position. You look at the Yankees teams in the 2000s. They won 1 World Series, but the teams in the 90s who had guys like Scott Brocious and Chuck Knobloch and a young Bernie Williams and guys and a Derek Jeter, guys who are not known for their power and more for their scrappiness and tough play, those teams won more than anybody else.
That's why I think the Mets are going to be contending in a few years.
So you take the San Francisco Giants as the latest example. Pitching is key, and that's the one thing the Mets have a lot of. They have pitching. They've led the minor leagues last year in every level in ERA. So pitching is plentiful. It's a very, very, very tough commodity to come by, and we have a lot of it.
You can never have enough of it.
Never have enough of it, and we have plenty of it. So I think the light is at the end of the tunnel finally for Met fans. This might be the last year where we kind of suffer, but there's definitely that optimism starting to grow, and it feels good.
Definitely.
Tommy, we would
Hey.
like to thank you for joining us on the S&D Podcast show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Thank you for your Met insight. Hope everybody enjoyed that.
Yes.
We're going to play a little Division 1.1 for the rest of you, and we're going to keep Tommy along, and we're going to talk about around the baseball league
with our friend Mike, who was just on talking about the Yankees. So enjoy.
Stick around. And welcome back to the S&D Podcast show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Steven and Dan here. Once again, thanks to Tom for doing that great Met insight with us just now.
Awesome job by Tom.
We're going to shift gears and bring Mike back on with us now.
Welcome back, Mike.
Hello.
And we're going to talk some around the league, not just the local teams, but around the league. But we are going to keep it local, and we're going to start off with the East divisions for each league. What do you want to start with?
We could start with we'll start with the National League because it's a lot less broad. Granted, they're both broad, but the National League is a little less broad compared to the two.
Right.
I'll go first. I think it's gonna be the Nationals division, just with their nasty pitching staff. With Strasburg finally gonna be Strasburg, they're gonna finally let him go as a pitcher. Gio Gonzalez had 20 wins last year, and he's a stud. Dan Herron's on the team this year. He's been overrated pretty much his whole career. And he had a rough year last year, but he's finally back in the NL, which is going to be good. And Jordan Zimmerman, by far, I think, the most underrated player of that team. He had a very nasty year last year. He had an under 3 ERA the whole entire year. And their bats are still good from last year. Harper's going to be his first full year as a pro. which he's still a stud. He's not Trout yet, but he's still amazing. So I think they're going to be there. I think the second place team is going to be the Braves. I know I've spoke to Tom, and he highly disagrees with me, but I think...
I don't know if I disagree. I just see Atlanta almost disappointing people and letting them down. I think Philly might go back to the Philly of old this year. You might see them compete.
The one thing I have to say about the Phillies, which I'm scared about, and I do have them on one of my fantasy teams, is Holiday. What's going on with Doc Holliday? He apparently hasn't hit over 90 in any of his spring training.
His last spring start, he was topping out at 85.
Yeah,
so
he's been topping that the last few weeks, actually.
That's not good. But
one week he was sick, apparently, which I think was an excuse kind of thing to save face. It's just pretty scary. The thing with the Phillies is they need their three aces to be three aces. And if Doc Holliday isn't their ace, quote-unquote top ace, the Phillies are going to have a very rough year.
I agree. A lot of it depends on how Holliday, responds to his early troubles in spring. So I guess you could put a big question mark next to the Phillies. But when you have your 3 and 4 hitters back, who have been a staple in that lineup every year they've been successful, and they're finally healthy for the first time in a while. I mean, that's good news for a Philly fan.
So, Tom, who do you think is going to win the NL East?
I got to go Washington. They are as complete of a team that you can find. Batting order from 1 through 9 is legit. Starting pitching, Dan already went over that. I mean, it's probably the best in baseball. And when you have 5 closers in your bullpen, you're doing okay. So from top to bottom, they're just a nasty team. I can't see anybody. They could be a 100-win team this year.
I also have the Nats. Mike, who do you have going in the NL East?
I'm going to go with the consensus, and I think the Washington Nationals are going to take the NL East. I really think that, like Tom said, they're one of the most complete teams in baseball. I think they're finally going to take the cuffs off Strasburg this year, and they're really just going to let him really be the pitcher that everybody has seen him to be. But I think that there's not going to be an inning count that's on the back of everybody's mind this year. I really think that they're just going to unleash him, and I think that we're going to see some really nasty stuff out of the Nationals this year. I also think that the Philadelphia Phillies are going to make a big comeback. I know last year was a big disappointing year, and they had a lot of hiccups, but I think if they stay healthy, and I think if their pitching stays sharp, I think that they can make a good run.
Yeah.
Just to leapfrog on Mike with the Phillies. You look at their first half last year; it was brutal.
Well,
second half. If you looked at the standings, at one point they were 2 games out of that second wild card spot.
They showed some life.
Once Utley and Howard came back, they became the team that they used to be. So it just shows how important they are to that lineup. And with those 2 guys and the pitching staff, still with a Cole Hamels and a Cliff Lee, the Halladay question mark, that they will be in the thick of things.
Yeah. And to bottom out the division, who do you have with the 4th and 5th spot? I obviously am going to be the homer, and I would say the Mets are going to be better than the Marlins. But I've heard a lot of. I was listening to ESPN a lot today, and they were covering the Mets, the NL East, and Tim Kurkjian and Buster Olney both predict. No, actually, Buster didn't predict, and the other guy Buster had. They both predict the Marlins were going to be better than the Mets this year. I don't see that, but after the Marlins offseason the Marlins had of pretty much trading everybody.
But think about if you think about the past with them when it comes to trading everybody, those are the years they win the World Series.
No, they have
the year after.
No, they have the good team and then they trade everybody. Other than Stanton, I don't really think they're going to be anything until they bring up their top prospect, Yelich. But that's not until the midsummer. Don't
underestimate the talent that the Marlins got back in that blockbuster trade. They got some decent return on that trade.
But do they play right away though?
Hechavarria does. The couple of young arms they got don't. So I think, would you be shocked to see the Marlins finish above the Mets?
No, because of injuries, but I don't see it.
Those 2 are interchangeable.
They're very interchangeable.
I think they fit into the same kind of situation. When will we see the prospects make an impact? With the Mets, with Harvey, with Wheeler and d'Arnaud, how soon do we see them? With the Marlins, Christian Yelich and Jose Fernandez, how early do we see them in the season? I think that'll play into it. But I think they're interchangeable at the bottom. I'll give the Mets. I'll go homer on this one. I'll give the Mets 4th place and the Marlins 5th place.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that 4th and 5th slot is definitely interchangeable between the Mets and the Marlins. I mean, I want to give the Mets, a little bit more of an edge, even though, it's, they're going to struggle, this year. Both those teams are going to struggle, especially the Marlins, pretty much getting gutted in the offseason or with, that big blockbuster trade that, they lost all these, these big players that, they spent so much money on and then they dumped them all. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think they're definitely interchangeable, but I got to give the edge to the Mets. I think the Mets, definitely finish ahead of Miami.
Now a little switching gears to the other league, the American League. We're going to start with Mike on this one. Who's your pick right now to win the American League East?
I think the American League East is definitely going to go to Baltimore. I think that last year they really came together as a team. They really showed a lot of heart as a team. Buck Showalter is a great manager. He did a great thing with that club last year, and I think that it's not going to be like I said earlier, it's not going to be like one of the years where you just give the division to the Yankees preseason just because of the Yankees, because clearly they're going to struggle this year. With the Blue Jays, sure, they have a lot of great players. They got in that big blockbuster trade, they got a lot of good talent, but it's all going to be about if they can mesh well and if they can all play together on the same team. So I think that the Orioles are just they've shown that they can click, and I think that this is going to be their year.
With the Orioles, I'm not sold yet. I'm just not. Last year it aligned so perfectly for them, and they did play very well, but I got to see it again. I can't be sold on that. How much are you getting out of Lou Ford, Nate McLouth, Jason Hamill? I mean, these are guys who had career years, who never even,
Yankee killer Nate McLeod, by the way.
Yankee killer Nate McLeod.
Ugh.
Mark Reynolds, no longer on the team. That was a big power bat in the middle of their lineup. I just got to see it again.
I think Chris Davis is going to have another solid year, finally, actually.
Chris Davis, yeah. I got to see it again. The pitching is kind of suspect, in my opinion. What do they do with Dylan Bundy? Do they have a top-of-the-rotation starter? Is there that guy that you can rely on that's going to get you a win every time through the rotation? I don't know if they have that guy right now. So,
I think they do. I think they have very solid pitching staff.
So, Tom, who's your pick to win the division in the American?
I'm going to go with Tampa on this one. They always seem to be in the thick of things, and with a weaker Yankees team and a Toronto team that just screams question mark at me. There's so many question marks on that team that I'm just going to take the proven over the last few years and go Tampa.
So you finally expect Longoria finally actually stay healthy for a season then?
I mean, he hasn't stayed healthy for a couple seasons, and they still seem to play well.
Yeah, like
if
last year,
healthy,
if he was healthy last year, they would have won the division without
to get over that hump and really take the division, they're definitely going to need Longoria, to stay
They're
healthy.
Gonna need him.
And with the loss of Shields, I know they will have they got a great prospect, which will be coming up soon, with Will Meyer. How long do you think Will Meyer does it take for Will Meyer to break into the lineup for the D-Rays?
Well, he's not a D-Ray anymore. Will Myers
he's a Ray.
He's a Ray.
is a Royal.
No, the other way
Well,
around.
Myers traded
He for Shields.
for Shields and
Right. Myers was
Wade
traded.
Davis.
Yes.
Right, that was.
But
the trade.
it's going to be within the first month of the year.
Yeah.
If whoever in that Rays lineup shows that they aren't hacking it, Will Myers can step right in. And the DH spot is big too, because even if there's no spot for him, they'll find a spot for him. So once he's going to get off to a great start in AAA, and he's going to be on that team within a month, I'd say.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with the surprise one. Well, not really a surprise because of the moves they made. I actually think the Jays will benefit from all the moves they make and actually can pull out on top of the American League East. I feel like it's an open wide division this year.
Yeah, I'm scared with the. I'm actually scared.
The only
with
thing
the
that really
Jays.
frightens me is the Reyes on the hard turf.
Not even that. What scares me is their bullpen. Their bullpen is atrocious. Their starting pitchers are Studley, as we. I actually saw today that Ricky Romero is actually not starting. He is actually going down to the minor leagues.
Who got their fifth spot? Hap?
Hap got their fifth spot today.
He had a great spring. He deserved
He has, and so that's really scary that Ricky Romero, who was their ace 2 years ago, is in the minors this year. With their starting rotation right now is pretty sick with Dickey, Josh Johnson, who else? Burley.
Yeah.
It's
Burley. Brandon Morrow is your number
Brandon
4.
Morrow, yeah, Brandon Morrow is a stud too.
But can he stay healthy? That's a question. Dickey on turf. I mean, a few more of those ground balls are going to scoot through. You know, it's unreasonable for expect him to do what he did last year. I think they're as good as their pitching. Their lineup is going to score some runs, but they're going to rely on their pitching. And like Dan said, the bullpen isn't the best in the league, and in a tough AL East, you know, it's I don't know. They're tough to read. They're a tough one to figure out.
I'm actually going to go with Mike and say the Orioles find a way again, since they were so gritty last year, that they're going to win the division.
Yeah, just to add on to what Tom said, I mean, one of the big reasons that Toronto is such a big question mark for me is just, you know, obviously the starting pitching rotation is looking solid, but, you know, that bullpen, it's just, you know, when you get into those games where you're getting, you know, late into those games and they're really, really tight score-wise, you know, you really need your bullpen to come through and in some cases save you. And, you know, the Blue Jays definitely don't have that.
I could see them losing a lot of close games, and those are the games that set you apart and give you that division, you know, that division chance there.
Yeah, I agree.
Since we are talking divisions, we're not going to go too in-depth into the rest of the league's divisions, since this is a New York show. Most of the listeners aren't from the New York tri-state area. But let's just get a take on who you guys think will actually win the division. So, Tommy, starting with you, let's go with the two Centrals, the NL and AL Central.
American League Tigers, and I think it's going to be over pretty early. They're going to run away with that division.
They're on a mission again after getting swept by the Giants in the World.
They got a healthy Victor Martinez back.
That's a huge improvement. And he's going to play catcher and first base on the nights that they want to play, say, Prince Fielder for DH. Don't forget that. So this year they're going to be more improved, and they have Verlander. Porcello is going to have a bounce back of the year this year. That's going to be my call of the year. With Fister, they're just overall team. The only problem with them is they don't know who their closer is yet, but they have
options.
They have options, and they're going to go closer by committee. I'm going to also be with Tom on that with the AL Central with the Tigers as well. How about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Tigers also. I think that, you know, they're just, you know, they're, like you said, they're on a mission to, you know, to finish what they started last year. I mean, I think that, you know, Verlander is going to be Verlander. You know, we all know, you know, the type of pitcher he is, and I think that, you know, they're just, you know, I look at the Cleveland Indians, and I'm going to watch them with interest. You know, I'm not expecting them to be that great, but
exactly.
I'm interested to see what Terry Francona is going to do with the team and to see how he progresses them from, you know, what they've been the past couple of years to, you know, the future of the
they'll be second and third place depending on how they fall.
So basically we all have the Tigers because I'm going to go with the Tigers as well. I mean, if you really think about it, who else is there to compete with the Tigers? I mean, you can argue maybe the White Sox can somewhat keep pace a little bit.
They can make some noise. I think they can make some noise,
but not really, like, not too much noise. There's really nobody else in the Central to be afraid of.
No.
I think you could expect the Royals maybe to make a push this year.
Maybe.
They're an interesting team to me just because they showed the signs. They showed the signs last year. Hosmer had a down year. Alex Gordon he's got more potential in his bat. They have Shields now. They have Wade Davis. They added to that rotation. They could be an interesting team to watch.
They can.
And they might finish.
I'm very intrigued with the Royals and Indians. Hopefully they play well and prove everybody wrong. Those can be sleeper teams. All right, Tom, since we finished up and we all agreed on the Tigers, what do you think about the NL Central?
It's a two-dog race.
Race.
Cincinnati, St. Louis. Cincinnati, I think, wins it easily. St. Louis, they always seem to hang in there, but Carpenter's out now. He's been the mainstay in that rotation, the guy that they go to when they need a big win. And I think losing him is going to hurt a lot. And just Cincinnati, that in that ballpark, that lineup just does so much damage. So I think they win this division pretty easily as well.
I'm actually going to agree with Tommy on that one. A healthy Votto just helps out a team a lot. The guy hits 300 and can hit 40 to 50 home runs every year by just flicking his wrist. So you got to think Votto's going to carry that team right into the Central Division Championship.
He's starting to show some injury concerns, though. He's been hurt a little bit, so we gotta that's something to keep an eye out for as well.
Mike,
I'm also gonna say it's gonna be a very tight race between the Cardinals and the Reds. Last year the Reds, they looked so dominant. For most of the season. Towards the end of the year, they really pulled away from that division, and the Cardinals just had more of an edge in the postseason. But I think when all is said and done, I think the Cardinals are gonna come out on top.
Okay. With me, I think I want to say the Reds, for they're finally that team. They're gonna probably win. I say they're gonna win the division, the Reds are gonna win the division. But it doesn't matter until playoffs, because the last 2 years they haven't done anything in the playoffs. I think it's now or never with them with the playoffs.
Oh, Dusty's got to win a playoff series. Keep the job.
The first year they were just happy to get there, and they got perfect game. The game 1 against the Phillies.
Yeah, Roy Halladay's first.
And the minute that game ended, that series was over, and they were just happy to make the playoffs that year.
That series ended in the 6th inning of that game.
Yep.
Cincinnati is one of those teams. Their offense can be so. I mean, you got Jay Bruce, you got Joey Votto, Brandon Phillips. You got such power in the middle of that order, but their pitching has always. It just seems after the 1 and 2 starters, they just don't have that guy.
But they arguably do have the best bullpen in the league.
Oh yes,
with Broxton, and Chapman is actually going to be announced the closer in the next few days, and I automatically put him in the top 3 closers in the league.
Yes,
easily, hands down. He has pure stuff, and I'm actually very glad for him to be the closer, because he doesn't have it mentally to become a stud starting pitcher. So I think that it's now or never for the Reds, and they're going to lock it up for the division.
I think, what do we see from the guy with the best name in baseball, Homer Bailey, best baseball name you'll ever find? What Homer Bailey do we get this year? Or do we get the guy who dominated the second half last year, or do we get the guy who's underfulfilled those prospects and those ace-type predictions?
I think he'll finally have a good year, what he had in the second half. He's finally getting into his own. It really is up to their starting pitching for them to make that run that they're so geared for.
I agree.
They're right on the cusp of being a World Series team and ultimately winning it.
Okay, now let's shift a little bit of the gears again and move even further out west. And we're going to start with Mike for this one, since we've been doing mostly American League. National League West.
National League West, I want to say Giants. I do. They looked so good, in the playoffs last year. I want to say Giants, but I think that ultimately, the Dodgers are they're gonna really be. I think they're going to be the team to beat all year, and I think that when all is said and done, I think that they're definitely gonna come out on top of the NL West.
I know I've talked with Dan and Steve about this, and I'm going to go out on a limb on this one. I'm not going to fall into the Dodgers trap. I don't buy into what they've done. They pretty much took over an entire Boston team that just underperformed the entire time they were there. Josh Beckett is a cancer. Adrian Gonzalez, his powers declined in 6 straight seasons. You have Carl Crawford. Who knows what you're getting from him? You added Hanley Ramirez. He was a cancer of the team that he came from. These are too many personalities to put together. I will say the pitching, I think, keeps them in it for a while with Kershaw and Greinke. Who knows how his elbow is going to hold up. But I can't fall into the trap. I don't buy into them yet. I'm going to say Arizona is my surprise pick for the NL West. I think they had the best offseason anybody in baseball had. I really like what they did with the Justin Upton trade. They got pieces that improved their team in areas that needed improvement. Martin Prado is going to hit you 300, man third base. Randall Delgado's 23 years old, and he's held his own in the NL East. I think he's just going to get better with age. They added Brandon McCarthy, Eric Chavez coming off the bench, Cody Ross in right field. They have a lot of young talent that's going to help out their team. I think the Diamondbacks shock some people this year, and I think they'll eventually take over that division.
Okay. What do you think, Steve?
I think that San Fran's going to take that pitching staff of Kane. I think Lincecum's going to go back to a couple of years ago, Timmy Lincecum. And now you got Bumgarner also. And who's the other one in the rotation?
It's Bumgarner and Vogelsong.
Vogelsong. I just think that rotation is just filthy, especially if Lincecum's on his A game. And then you're getting, they already announced their opening day starter this year is Barry Zito.
What?
If I told you last year.
Oh, man.
What?
I'm pretty sure I heard that Barry Zito was starting opening day.
What would be the purpose of that?
I think they're having a Barry Zito bobblehead day.
That's silly. Okay. Well, let's just not start Matt Cain. Okay.
But you know what?
Anyway.
That rotation.
It's only one of 162 games.
If you get 10 wins and a decent ERA out of Zito, that's a 5-man rotation. That's incredible.
Oh, absolutely.
Barry Zito, has in the couple of postseasons that he's been on this team and the World Series that they've won, he's earned that contract. I know it's a bad contract in general, but he's pitched well when they needed him to.
And that's why I think that San Francisco is going to end up winning that division. I think the Bats will just be on their own. They're going to be a team that's going to be able to win those couple of games with Sergio at the end, closing. Also, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. So I'm going to go with the Giants in that division.
This is rough. I think
it's one of the toughest divisions.
This was actually my toughest division. I want to say the Dodgers, but my heart, because pitching wins championships and divisions, that I might have to go with the Giants. But the thing with the Giants is their pitching has to be good. They have to have Lincecum be Lincecum again, because with the star-powered lineup that the Dodgers have, with Greinke and Kershaw, there is no shot that the Giants could hang with them. So I think the Giants' pitching staff is going to hang around, and they're a scrappy team. They're a very scrappy team. Buster Posey hit almost 350 and won the batting title last year. They're just a proven team, and they're just one of those teams that are actually a team and is a full team. So I'm going to have to go with the Giants, but would I be shocked that the Dodgers win the division? Absolutely not, but I'm going Dodgers.
Okay, well, sticking with you then.
I mean, I'm going with Giants.
Giants. Okay, so sticking with you, let's talk AL West.
AL West. All right. What the AL West was a wacky year last year, with the Rangers kicking so much ass throughout actually 99.9% of the season, and the A's coming out of nowhere and stealing the division. The third place team was the Angels. I'm going to go with the Angels this year, just for the sure power of their offense alone. with Mike Trout, Super Mike Trout, Rookie of the Year. He's going to be batting between Pujols and Josh Hamilton.
He won't be batting in between. He's going to be batting before them.
He's going to be batting.
He's going to be leading off for them now. Still.
Yeah, he's leading off for them.
He's leading off.
Yeah,
leading off.
Pretty sure they're keeping him in the 1 hole.
Yeah,
Wow,
they're going to keep him in the 1.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I forgot who they're putting in the 2,
Bold.
but then it's going to be...
Eric Ibar should be hitting 2.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Their team is really, really loaded with Mike Trout, quote unquote, leading off. I didn't know he was leading off. That's
I didn't
crazy.
know that either. Yeah.
With Albert Pujols just being Albert Pujols, and the thing is, what I'm worried about is Hamilton. How does Hamilton handle the LA spotlight? He is the key for this year's team. If hopefully he stays healthy and he stays on the right track of things, the Angels should have that division locked up. I think the A's are going to bounce back into reality and fall back into place. The Mariners are going to be the last place team, unfortunately again. But I think it's going to be the Angels and then the Rangers.
So you don't think Jason Bay is going to carry
Houston? Don't forget Houston Astros.
Oh yeah, the Astros are going to be the last place team, unfortunately.
Every team in the division other than the Astros were already given 17 wins.
Yep.
Even though they play each other 19 times. They wanted to be nice.
I'm going to respond to Dan on this one. I do agree Angels take the division. I'm not a big believer in the stacked lineups. I think if you're going to spend money, spend it on pitching. But I think the Angels have stacked up their order in a way that it's almost the perfect batting order.
Exactly.
You have the star power, but you also have the speed that you need. You have the role players that you need in Ibar and Callaspo.
And I add, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I absolutely love Socha. I think he's the best manager in the whole entire game. There, I said it. But proceed, Tom.
And I just think the way that their lineup is, it provides the power, the speed, the defense. It just gives you, it just keeps coming at you. You got the power guys in Hamilton and Pujols, but Pujols doesn't strike out, and he hits for a high average. Hamilton hits for a high average, hits for high power, and everything that they give you and that they throw at you is just, it's tough. It's going to be tough to pitch against that.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to have to also go with the Angels. You know, I think that they're just, it's hard to, to not think that they're going to come away with this division. I mean, they just have so many weapons and so much versatility. Geez, Josh Hamilton, coming over, from Texas, I think that he's just going to, like Dan said, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles that LA spotlight. I think he needs to stay healthy, and he needs to stay, he needs to stay on the right track. He definitely needs to keep a clear head. He can't get, caught up in that, in that whole scene, because LA's it's a tough place to play, but I think that, Pujols we know is going to be Pujols. Mike Trout is obviously, he's coming off a great year, and, like Tom said, it's just, they keep coming at you with all these different weapons and versatility. I think the A's are still gonna, I think they're gonna be in it. I think the A's are definitely gonna make things interesting. I think they, obviously they shocked a lot of people last year and completely stole that division, but I think it's going to be it's going to be more of an interesting division than people think. I don't know if LA is going to run away with it as early as everybody thinks. But I definitely think that ultimately the division is going to go to the Angels.
Okay.
I lump Oakland and Baltimore in the same boat in my mind. You got to show me it again. The stars just aligned for those teams last year in the perfect way. The Rangers collapsed. The A's got hot at the right time. Can their young pitching do it again? Can Cespedes get even better? Can Josh Reddick hit you 30-something home runs again? I don't know if I see it happening, and you got to show me it again. But I still like the Rangers in that division as well. The Rangers still have a star-studded lineup. They've shown that they can win. And without a late-season collapse last year, they they're in the playoffs, and who knows what happens if they get in. So,
Well, technically, they did make the playoffs.
well, yes, but they had that division locked up. They should have had a
Correct.
they should have had a top seed. They shouldn't have had a play-in game, but I still think they're a force to be reckoned with, and I think you can expect Angels, Rangers top 2. I would think that, but Oakland is an intriguing team, so I guess we'll see what happens.
Okay. That is the divisions for everybody. Just so everybody knows, I will be posting this on our Facebook page and Twitter page, so it will be up for everybody to review and have a nice little comment section on, of course, so everyone can give their own opinion of this. We're going to stick with the playoff talk, man. Ready? 2 teams for the wild card spots. Just don't. You don't have to give a description.
All right.
Just 2 teams for the wild card.
All right, I'll
spots.
start off. NL, I think the Cardinals, and I think it's gonna be the Cardinals and the Dodgers. I had the Giants winning the division, right?
Yes.
All right, so Giants. I'm sorry, Dodgers and the
Dodgers.
No,
Yes. Cardinals.
so
and
you have
Cardinals
it-
and Dodgers.
So you have Atlanta missing postseason play.
Correct.
I like it.
I have.
I'm gonna say, I'm going Philly. I'm gonna go with the Philly comeback here. I'm gonna say Philly gets one of the spots, and I'm gonna say San Francisco.
I actually have the Philly and the Cards doing making the playoffs. Phillies and Cards. Mike?
I'm gonna go Philly, and I think that the Reds are gonna get the other, because I had the Cardinals winning the NL Central. So yeah, I'll give the Reds the other wild card slot. But yeah, I think that the Phillies are definitely gonna make another run at it this year.
Okay, Mike,
Oh.
sticking with you. American League wild card spots.
Wild card slots. I think Oakland grabs one of them, and I gotta go with the Yankees grabbing the other one. I think that the Yankees are gonna be scrappy this year, and it's gonna be obviously they're not gonna be the dominant team that everybody's used to seeing, but I think that they certainly have the talent, and I think they're good enough to to do what they need to do and win 80 to 85 games and to get into that second wild card slot.
I'm going to go with Texas. I haven't given up on them yet. And I'm going to drink the juice. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid on this one. I'm going to say Toronto. I feel it's going to come back to bite me in the butt, but I'm going to say Toronto just because that rotation is pretty nasty.
All right. I'm gonna go with Tom with half of it. I think the Rangers are gonna win get the one wild card spot. I just can't see it with the Jays. I have that feeling with the Jays. I'm gonna have to. It's hurting me to say this, and it's gonna burn me, but I'm gonna say the Yankees find a way and make the playoffs again. It hurts me just with all the injuries, but the Yankees are the Yankees, and they will find a way.
That's a good point. The Yankees are the Yankees. You can't rule them out.
And I have Texas getting one of them. I think their pitching's going to be pretty good, better than expected this year. And I also have the Rays getting the other spot. We will talk World Series later on, but now we're going to do the awards. We'll do the main awards for everybody. So you know what? We'll go from the least basically to the highest. So we're going to start with the batting title awards. I'll start with the National League. My National League batting title. I think Joey Votto's going to pull it off this year and win the National League batting title.
I'm gonna throw out a little factoid about Joey Votto that you won't believe when you hear it. It's that unbelievable. In his entire career, Joey Votto, this just shows you the bat control, the timing. He has fouled one ball off into the right field stands in his 6-year career.
Wow.
One ball he's pulled foul, showing that everything he's hitting.
All right.
Hitting
Tim
is
Kirch
square.
over here.
Do you remember the time and place and inning and game of this?
Oh, yeah. Oh. In
If you ask him-
1947, they have...
That's a very interesting factoid. That's crazy.
Thank you, Tommy.
Wow.
Throw this on top of it. In his career, one time has he popped up to the infield. So what does that show you? That everything that guy is hitting is on a line drive, and it's in the field of play. So, most complete hitter in baseball, possibly. Can he stay healthy? That's
by the way, about talking about Joey Votto, there is a good article in the ESPN magazine, the baseball preview on Buster Only wrote a great interview with Joey Votto, and that's a good read, actually.
So, Tommy, who is your NL batting title champion?
Oh, yeah, I give all the facts, and I don't even give my pick. NL batting title. I struggled with this one. I told you guys before I didn't really have a set guy. I'm going to say Tulowitzki.
Back.
He's coming back. And
Can he stay healthy?
He's my comeback player of the year.
Can he stay healthy?
He's my comeback player of the year.
A healthy Tulo is always going to be up for a batting title, so I'm going to say Tulo. But I think it's really up. You might see a surprise this year. You might not see one of the main guys get it. Somebody could come out of nowhere.
Okay, Mike.
I'm going to agree with Steve, and I'm going to go with Votto. I think that judging from the stats that Tom just gave, I think that this guy really when he hits, he hits the ball true and he keeps it in the field of play, and I definitely think that the batting title goes to him.
All right, mine's the last one, and no one put him down. I think with his stack lineup, and if he stays healthy, he would have won it last year. And my pick is Matt Kemp.
Okay, that's interesting.
Matt Kemp was...
he did dump Brianna, so...
Matt Kemp did have the best first half of the season until he got hurt. Right before the All-Star break. After that, he was never the same.
But it was okay to do the home run derby.
Yeah, right.
Yes. I say Matt Kemp is going to be this year's batting champ.
Well, then we're going to stick with you. American League.
American League. All right. The American League, I am going to go with batting champ in the American League. I got to go with the reigning Triple Crown guy, and Miggy Cabrera, Miguel Cabrera. I will say he will repeat.
What a cop-out pick.
It is a cop-out.
I got the same one. I'm going to admit it. I got the same one.
It is a cop-out pick, but...
How do you go wrong with him?
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I have to go. I was telling Dan before, it sounds a little cliche, but I think that Josh Hamilton might get it. He was right behind.
No, this is batting title. This isn't MVP.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with batting title also. I think that he was right in the race. All the way to the end.
Yes, he was.
So I think that you can't. The list. There's so many great hitters in the American League, but I think that Josh Hamilton is going to continue doing what he's been doing so well, what he did so well last year, and I think the batting title will go to him.
You got to hope he doesn't have many day games.
Yeah.
Josh Hamilton is an interesting pick. When you consider he was in the thick of it last year, and he had a month of the season in which he hit under 150.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you. Aside from that month, how locked in he was all year. I'm gonna go on a limb on this one and just, can I pick a team? Because I think it's gonna be somebody from the Royals. I'm thinking a Billy Butler or a Salvador Perez. Both these guys are 300+ hitters.
So anybody on the Royals?
Somebody on the Royals. I'm gonna break the rules and just say Royals, but I'll go Billy Butler. I'll say Billy Butler. I think he's gotten better every year. I think he finally puts it all together this year.
Wow. All right, from me being ordinary to you coming out of left field. I love it. All right.
Alrighty. I'm going to start now. We're going to start with the American League Manager of the Year.
I'll start this one.
You want to start this one?
I'll start this one. I have Tampa winning the AL East, so I'm going to pick Madden to take down the Manager of the Year award.
I could see that. I actually have him as well, winning the Manager of the Year award.
Good choice. Great minds think alike.
It's true. It's the Hewlett High School school system.
That's what we did.
All right.
Dan went to Hewlett also. What's his
So
story?
did Mike.
So yeah, we all
We all did.
we're all
Oh, Mike, look at this.
Yeah, that's nice, huh?
Anyway, I'm going to go with the AL East still, but I'm going Showalter.
Ooh.
That's a good pick.
Without Showalter, the Orioles are dog doo. And without him guiding them and just have his magic touch with the team, they aren't what they should be without him. So I'm going with Showalter.
Mike?
You know, I'm gonna go with a an interesting pick. I think that Terry Francona is gonna get it this year just because I think that the Cleveland Indians are. Terry Francona is a great manager. Obviously, all the success he had with the Boston Red Sox. I think that he's going to take the Cleveland Indians and,
make
he's
them
not
respectful.
He's not. He's going exactly. He's going to turn the organization around, and
I agree with you.
He's going to completely change, the norm of what everybody thinks of when they think of the Cleveland Indians. So they may not have the most success that that people are hoping, but I think that Terry Francona takes the club and he does great things with it.
Terry Francona is also very highly thought of in baseball circles, and those are the guys that the writers do the voting. So if he does get this team showing any signs of life, I think you got to consider him in the top 3, definitely.
Okay. That was American League. So, Mike, we'll stick with you. National League, Manager of the Year.
It's tough. It's a very tough. I have to go. And this isn't because I'm a Yankee fan, but I have to go. I have to go Don Mattingly. I think that with the Dodgers. I mean, you say what you will about the Dodgers. There's a lot of question marks on the team, but I think that they're a strong organization, and I think that. With the NL West, it's going to be, it's going to be a tight race this year, and I think that Don Mattingly is definitely he's gonna finally take the Dodgers and he's gonna bring them to the next level. So I definitely think that the Manager of the Year goes to Mattingly.
I'll stick with the NL West theme. I'm gonna go Kirk Gibson, gonna win it. I think this would be his second one if he does win it. I think, like I stated before, I think Arizona's got a good chance to upset people in that division. So if they can get that done, I think Kirk Gibson wins it unanimously.
I'm going to stay in the NL East, actually. And I think one of the arguably most talented teams in the NL, the Nationals, I think Davey Johnson's going to win it. I just think they just got so much, and they're going to have a 100+ win season where they're just going to have to give it to him.
Did he state that this is his last year?
No.
He didn't. Okay, I was going to say baseball's very traditional, so if that's the case,
then it's him.
If they even make the playoffs, he's going to get it, just to send him out on top.
All right. I was gonna go with Davey Johnson, but for the purpose of the show, I am gonna go with Mike Matheny.
Ooh.
I like his grittiness as the coach. He's pretty much what he was as a player, a very everyday player with just playing like it's his last day, and you can see how gritty the Cardinals are. And they're not the best team, but they are a team that's going to compete and play hard every day. So so for the purpose of the show, I'm going to go with Mike Matheny with the Cardinals.
Alrighty. So let's stick in the National League.
Okay.
And I'm going to start off with the Rookie of the Year.
Okay.
My surprise pick, I'm going to go Oscar Taveras from St. Louis Cardinals.
Okay.
How early in the season does he get the call? Because you have Holiday, Beltran, and John Jay stay healthy. There's no room for him.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the rumor is that he might actually make the team.
Really?
Because Beltran's going to be on the deal.
Beltran apparently pulled something today.
Oh, did he? Okay.
On the 26th, so apparently he will be making the team. Also, Beltran is in a contract season, so they probably will be like the Mets from a couple years ago and try and get rid of him for something else.
Well, we'll see about that. The Mets and Cardinals are completely different scenarios.
Did I also read something? Matt Holliday got hurt as well.
Yeah, Holiday got hurt a couple weeks ago.
He did. Okay, so
And
yeah,
John Jay's always finds a way to get hurt as well. So
yeah, if Tavares gets that job, he might not ever give it up. That's scary to think, a young kid like that.
So I think Oscar Tavares is going to be the NL Rookie of the Year. Tommy, what do you think?
I'm going to go San Diego Padres, Jed Giorco, third baseman by trade, converted to second base this spring, and he's outright won that job. Guy's hit 30-plus home runs in the minor leagues last couple of seasons. Not to mention he's hit 350 as well. So he puts the ball in play, doesn't strike out much. He's got pop, and if you have a second baseman hitting 25-plus home runs in his rookie season, I find it hard to think that the voters aren't going to give it to him. Now, with Headley on the DL, he might shift back to his regular position at third base. When Headley comes back, you might see Giorco go to second base. So you look at his flexibility, I think that adds to his favor. So I'm going Jed Giorco, San Diego Padres.
Okay. Mike?
With rookies, it's so hard to say. You go on what you see. For me, I think that Shelby Miller is definitely a great pick. He's just from what I've seen, he seems like a really promising player, and he's a 5-tool guy. He's just the guy. Judging from what I've seen so far, he's got it all. So I'm gonna go Shelby Miller.
A little theme developing here with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
all right. With me,
Cardinals are going to have a great rookie season.
I'm going to be a silly goose on this one, and I'm going to be a homer, and I'm going to say, too bad. No, does Harvey still consider a rookie?
No.
No, he pitched over 50 innings last year.
All right, yeah, he did. Damn it. All right, I'm still going with Mets.
Very silly.
I'm still going to go with Mets, since I think he's going to be called up sooner than a lot of people expected. I'm going to go with Travis Darnell because he's going to be not what Buster Posey was, because Buster Posey did win the World Series his rookie year. I just think he's going to be a solid bat for a catcher, and being able to control whole pitching staff and everything. I'm going to go with Travis Darnell as an overall Rookie of the Year for the NL.
Oh,
you silly goose.
Yeah, I told you I was going to be silly on that one.
Alrighty, I'm going to start the AL, and I'm going to go Will Myers.
Damn you.
I think it's just a matter of time till he gets the call up if he doesn't make the team. Well, actually, he didn't make the team, but I think he's going to get the call up.
He's going to make the team.
I know
he'll be up soon.
He'll be up soon. I'm pretty sure it's an arbitration.
All because of arbitration. Yep.
Which is such a dumb rule anyway. So, but I really think he's going to win it. Tommy, what do you think?
Since I really thought about this, my stock on this guy has fallen a little bit. But again, I'm going to go Bruce Rondon. He's potential Tiger for the potential closer for the Tigers. Guy throws 103 miles an hour. So,
that's gas.
If he wins a spot in that bullpen and pitches decent, I think you could see him rack up the saves real quick. Offensive guys tend to win the Rookie of the Year award because they're exposed, 150 plus games. But a guy throwing 103, I'll take my chances with him.
Okay, Mike.
AL, I'm gonna go Aaron Hicks over with the Twins. I think that he's definitely, like I said, he's just, judging with rookies, you gotta go with your gut a lot of times with rookies. So you gotta go from what you've seen, and I think that he's shown a lot of promise, and he's got a lot of tools.
The Twins did announce last couple of days he won the starting center field job, so
there you go.
He's a guy to look out for.
Okay, my pick. Damn you, Steve. I was gonna go with Will Meyer.
Still go with him.
I can go with him.
You can agree. We're allowed to do that here.
I'm gonna actually have to agree. He's been highly touted. It's not like last year's rookie class where you had those Trouts and you had the Harpers and everything. But Will Meyer is actually the overall, other than Profar, but the best pretty much overall outfielder is Will Meyer, and the Royals just wanted pitching in that deal, and they gave up their best prospects. So I'm going to have to go with Will Meyer as well.
Alrighty. We're gonna speed it up a little. We're gonna do the last two awards. We'll do our World Series predictions.
Okay.
All right. We'll do this one nice and quick. The Cy Young Award. Basically, the same guys are in the talks every year. I'm gonna start off with the American League. I'm gonna go Verlander. I mean, the guy consistently hits 100 on the gun. Even in the 8th inning, he can hit 97 miles an hour. So I'm going to go Verlander.
Okay.
I'm going to go Verlander as well. The guy's, I mean, is there anything the guy doesn't have? He's got the nastiest stuff in baseball. He gets stronger as the game goes on, and he's dating Kate Upton.
I think they broke
Justin
up.
Verlander for the win.
Rumor is they broke up.
I didn't even know they were dating. They're dating.
They broke up.
Really?
Oh, my. I didn't even know they were
Tommy,
dating.
get on that.
Wow. Jeez.
And Verlander, I don't know about that now. That changes my opinion. Still go with him though.
I'm gonna go with Felix Hernandez. You know, I think that, you know, despite the fact he's not really on a strong team this year, I think that, you know, he just signed a big year. What was his deal?
10 years.
10 years or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, he signed a big deal. I think that he's got a nice peace of mind now, and I think that he really hones in and starts throwing his good stuff, his best stuff actually.
All right. And me, I'm going to have to go with David Price back-to-back years. He is, out of those guys, I think he's very underrated compared to Verlander and those guys. He still has what it takes to be the Cy Young.
Okay. So let's shift gears
To
right now to the
NL?
National League, and I'm going to start off with, I'm going to go with Clayton Kershaw off the Dodgers. It's going to be my pick this year to win the National Cy Young.
I'm going to go opposite directions of you, Steve. I'm going to go reliever, Craig Kimbrell. He's a very good replacement for Mariano Rivera in terms of, you know, carrying the torch of just dominant closer. This he's got the best stuff in baseball, I think, and, you know, on a team that's going to win a bunch of games, he's going to close out. It could be 50 this year, so I think he might get it this year. I don't know.
Alrighty. Mike?
I'm gonna go Strasburg. You know, I think that they're gonna take the cuffs off him this year, and they're really gonna let this guy just absolutely, you know, start, you know, becoming the workhorse that, you know, he's already proven himself to be. Don't get me wrong, but, you know, now that, you know, like I said before, that there's no inning count in everybody's mind or in the back of his mind, I think that he's, you know, he's just gonna blow the top off.
Okay. Dan?
Okay. I am going to go NL West, but I'm going to go with Matt Cain.
Alrighty.
Matt Cain is just an overall stud. I think it's finally going to be his year to win the Cy Young Award.
Speaking of good-looking spouses, I thoroughly enjoyed Matt Cain's perfect game, especially when they flashed to his wife.
Hey now. Not that flashy.
Hey-o.
But yeah, she is a
Wrong show.
Alrighty. And on that note, talking about studs,
We didn't do it. Did
we're
do
going to
MVPs?
do MVPs now.
MVPs.
Since we're going to do MVPs, and then we're going to do our
Okay.
who's in the World Series / winning the World Series.
All right.
No descriptions, though.
I will
We're gonna
start.
go no descriptions, just names.
Yeah, everybody knows names. All right. I'll start it off. With the American League, I'm gonna go with Trout. And
Who else?
okay.
I'm going
Who else?
Fielder. I got Fielder.
I'm going Trout also.
Trouty. All right, for National League. I
I'm
am
going Joey Votto.
ooh Joey Bats.
Joey Votto.
Mike?
I'm gonna shake things up and say David Wright.
Ooh.
Yeah, I knew I'd make you Met fans happy with that one.
Dan just perked up in his seat over there.
Yeah, I did. Hopefully AJ's listening too. Anyway, I'm gonna go with. Ooh, this is a toughie.
I'm going to go with my surprise to make sure you don't pull him off as a surprise. I actually think Bryce Harper is going to win the NL MVP this year.
I definitely didn't.
I think
that.
Harper's going to win the NL MVP this year.
Anyway.
Had a great spring.
He did have a great spring.
He also gained so much muscle. I think he's ready to take it on.
I'm gonna have to go with Tommy on this one. And you know what? I'm gonna screw it. I'm going with one or two people.
You only get one.
Okay, fine. I will go with Cargo. I will go with Carlos Gonzalez.
Ooh.
He's finally gonna have a great year with Tulu actually gonna have bounce back healthy year as expected. With the two of them together, I think Cargo is gonna be the NL MVP.
Who was your other guy? Votto?
Kemp.
Oh, Kemp. Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. All right. We're gonna shift gears. We're gonna go World Series matchup / winner. Mike, starting with you. World Series matchup / winner.
World Series matchup, I'm going to have Detroit Tigers against the Washington Nationals, and I say the Washington Nationals take it.
Ooh, Tigers again, no love again.
Snubbed again.
Oh wait, before we, that'll be the fourth year in a row that the AL has lost to the NL, and there's only been two teams. Anyway, go on. Sorry, Tom.
I'm going probably the most cliche pick in the world. Angels, Nationals. Nationals pitching staff is just too much to handle for the Angels bats. Nationals, I think, take it down.
All right, Dan.
Okay, I'm gonna go a little different. I'm gonna go with the Reds finally finding a way, but they're gonna end up losing to the Tigers. They're finally gonna find a way to win.
Getting over that hump.
Alrighty. I actually have the Reds making the World Series as well. I have them going up against the Angels, and I just think the Angels just have too much firepower in that lineup.
Well, good thing I was
Angels.
about to say Angels. I'm very glad.
So I got the Angels winning the World Series.
You can't argue against the Angels.
No.
I mean, they're so stacked. You can't really.
Yeah.
You can't say anything against them at all.
For the goodness of the show, thank God I went Tigers without even talking.
Alrighty. Well, that was our Around the League.
I hope you guys enjoyed.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mike.
Thank you for having me,
Thank
guys.
you, Tom.
Thank you for joining.
You're welcome.
Also, thank you for your insight on your individual teams. Tom with the Mets, Mike with the Yankees.
Anytime.
I hope everybody enjoyed. We're going to take a quick little break, and Dan and I will come back to wrap this up.
Yep. All right, welcome back to the S&D podcast. That was our baseball special. Dan here with Steve.
Hope everybody enjoyed this.
Yeah, that was a very good show. I'm really happy on how it came out and everything like that. A lot of surprises and a lot of good insight from two big fans of their respective teams and overall good baseball fans, along with our insight and goals for each team this year.
Special thanks to both of them, Mike and Tommy, for joining us today. We hope everybody enjoyed it. We will have a couple more specials. We are currently working on
an NFL draft, which is going to be fun.
Of course, we'll do an NFL season preview show later on. Maybe we'll do a mid baseball season show special for everybody.
I have a lot of good envisions with baseball, so hang tight with us.
Baseball's a tricky one because once July and August hit, that is the only sport.
Yeah.
Really, if you want to think about it, besides training camp for football and free agencies for the other two. So we will talk baseball.
No, definitely. Baseball is going to be a main part of our show. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be a lot of roller coaster rides because baseball is a game of hot streaks and slumps. So have fun, Yankee fans. Have fun, Met fans, on our rants and raves on each team and overall baseball teams. If you have any fantasy questions, be sure to hit us up on certain things. I know I'm in 3 fantasy leagues.
Yeah,
so
I have
Steve,
about 3 or 4 of them also.
just for fun. So, by the way, it's open to anybody. Hit us up. Any baseball team where we have the MLB at bat, so we watch pretty much any game that anybody has to offer. So, thanks again for listening, and enjoy your baseball.
Hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to play a little little more ending to Division 1.1 with a vengeance. Just remember this week, look for us Thursday on the 28th, maybe the 29th. We'll post the show, but our normal show will be back later on this week. Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
SND Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by Major League Baseball or any of its affiliates.